Hello everybody, we are here to talk about updated Oscar predictions. There has been a lot that has changed in the landscape of the Oscars coming up. So we're going to talk all about it here, and I'm going to share with you what the heck is going on with all these changes and mix-ups and who the front runners are going to be now. Starting off with Best Picture, I am moving down Everything Everywhere All at Once, slightly down to number 2, to make way for Women Talking. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of things that have been changing. One of the biggest things is that all the fall festivals kicked off. All of them started premiering. TIFF, Venice, all these other fall festivals, and people were able to see these films. Granted, mostly critics. One of the films that was received extremely well was Women Talking. Apparently, it is more digestible than people were expecting this to be. The adaptation of the book apparently is just brilliant. I've read the book, and it is a hard book to adapt. But from people who are familiar with the text and saw the film are saying that it was adapted in a very beautiful way, and the performances are just outstanding. A big SAG ensemble contender here, and we'll talk about it more as we get into the acting categories, but we got a couple of performances here that are big contenders. This is a film that very likely at this point will get multiple acting nominations, and we'll talk about that more later. And the direction from Sarah Polley is reportedly very beautiful. There are some issues with color grading and the cinematography being a little bland and a little distracting, but that is pretty much one of the only big criticisms that have been coming out about this film. No way that I can hear all of that information and not throw that up to my number one right now, because it has a very likely chance of winning adapted screenplay, with some issues that are coming up with The Sun, my previous predicted winner, same with a lot of other people's. It seems very secure in that adapted screenplay category, which is looking rather barren right now. So, and if you can win a screenplay category and have a big contender in directing and acting categories as well, I have to put it number 1. Everything Everywhere, I mean, I will continue to not deny this until precursor awards come out and they prove me wrong. And I don't know if they will prove me wrong. So I have to continue to have that up there. The Fabelmans is still up there. This is another film that premiered. Some people are saying that it's maybe not Steven Spielberg's best movie, but his most personal movie. And of course, as we saw with films like Belfast last year, winning original screenplay and coming rather close to winning Best Picture, you can't deny it. It's going to get a big handful of nominations. It's going to be one of those films that they're like, oh, we need a 4th or a 5th in this category. We don't know what to put. We'll put The Fabelmans just to get that whole package. We saw that with The Irishman a few years back. They just threw The Irishman into certain categories. They're just like, sure, why not? Babylon has gone down a little bit. The trailer did come out, and it looks like Wolf of Wall Street meets La La Land. It looks insane. Meets Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. The production looks insane. It's going to get a lot of nominations, of course, a lot of technical nominations. But it is still coming out very late December, premiering with a wide release even in early January. So it's rather late. It's skipping the fall festivals, so which could help it, that with the recency bias, as voters go to vote, it will be very fresh in their minds. But with all these other films that I have above it, I think they're just a little stronger in certain categories and are more likely guaranteed wins. Babylon, I think, is guaranteed a lot of nominations. I don't know if it's guaranteed win. Number 5, moving up 8 spots from last time, is The Banshees of Inisherin. I really should have taken this one seriously in August, but seems to be the real deal. Martin McDonagh has knocked it out of the park again, according to critics, and the performances are outstanding. and with more and more films that were initially in a lot of people's top tens falling out of that, this has just paved the way for Banshees to get back up there. We're looking, it seems Martin McDonagh has another 3 billboards type year ahead of him. He is a big contender in the screenplay category, possible director nomination, and definitely up to 3 actors nominated in this film, which is spectacular. It is very hilarious, very touching, and very, very sharp. And this has quickly become one of my most anticipated films for the rest of this year. Top Gun Maverick, it has stayed strong, similar to The Fabelmans. It's just so many films have just dropped out of the top 10, and this one has not proven us wrong yet. People continue to go see this movie. It is still showing in theaters. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's making so much money. It's unprecedented. The power of this film is unmatched, and I think it's going to prove well for them come Oscar nomination morning. Tar. This is also moving up 8 spots for me. I didn't know a ton about it back in August, but now that it's premiered, it seems that Cate Blanchett might be the front runner for Best Actress, and she might be getting her third Oscar win ever. Apparently it is very, very dark and grueling and a very, very intriguing character study. And Cate Blanchett just knocks it out of the park with brilliant direction from Todd Field. It is coming out very soon, so I'm very excited to see it. Audiences are just raving about it. Every single tweet that I see about this film, they're just like, Cate Blanchett, Cate Blanchett, Cate Blanchett. And we see when we have these front runners for these acting categories, their films, you have to consider them. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Last year, all 5 of the leading actress nominees, none of their films were nominated for Best Picture. However, in the screenplay category, it looks like it's gonna sneak in there. Director's a possibility. It's all kind of wrapped there in a package that is very, very, very tasty and very likely. The Whale, I still got it up here. Everybody's raving about Brendan Fraser. He seems to be now the sole front runner for that Best Actor win. Apparently it's a little melodramatic according to some people, so that could hurt it. That's why I've got a little lower still. There is a chance, could miss. Honestly, with my top 10 here, my top 7, pretty secure. I'm pretty sure that that's going to get in. 8 through 10, it's really kind of a toss-up for a lot of things. The Whale, I think, is a little more secure than the other 2 spots. Now, these last 2 spots, I really was throwing around a lot of films. I really didn't know what to throw in here. I kept going back and forth, but as I was looking at all the other categories, I saw these films maybe popping up a little more often in these other categories. So on their best days, I think they could get a lot of nominations, which could sneak them into the Best Picture. The first one is The Woman King. I was able to see this, as did a lot of audiences. It did decent at the box office, I'm very pleased to say. And it is a kind of a throwback to a historical epic genre that we haven't gotten in a while, kind of the early 2000s Gladiator kind of vibe there. But this one, it's unique where it really leans into the action of it. It has a lot of great action, but the performances are so strong. You still get that wonderful character work and really sharp direction and interesting cinematography. And one of the biggest reasons that the Oscars expanded to 10 nominees in Best Picture is so they can allow for blockbuster films to sneak in here. But I think Viola Davis is strong enough, supporting cast is strong enough. This could be a SAG Ensemble contender. And again, some vacancies in screenplay categories can allow this to sneak in. And so it's at my number 9 right now. And at number 10, I've got Elvis. I am pretty unsure about this, but I just threw it in now because it seems almost guaranteed that Austin Butler is getting nominated. And I think this has the capacity to get quite a few technical nominations on its best day, which, if it gets a big enough package, it'll sneak in. Now to talk about certain films that didn't quite make the cut just yet, but right on that bubble. Number 11, Glass Onion, a Knives Out story. One of the biggest things that's holding it back for me is that it's a sequel. We don't often see sequels making it into there, but we got quite a few sequels here in this outside bubble that, you know, the first films were highly received, and these ones have the potential to be highly received as well. Why not? Apparently the cast is wonderful, just like the first film. It seems the production design from the trailers looks fantastic. Looks super, super well done, very magnificent and ornate. And it's just one of those films that audiences, I think, will just love. Everyone ate up the first Knives Out movie. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't with this one. It seems like it's probably going to get in the screenplay category, so I'm keeping my eye really close on this one. And then we got our biggest international film contender has slowly turned out to be All Quiet on the Western Front, the film from Germany that Germany officially has submitted for Oscar contention, so it is eligible, and this is coming out on Netflix. And, you know, awards bodies love their war films. From what I'm hearing, it is a little bleak and not as hopeful as certain war films, take an angle on Saving Private Ryan, 1917. They may have those very bleak, very grueling depictions of war, but there's always some sort of optimistic angle that the story is told from, and it doesn't seem like that this film has a lot of that. So that may alienate certain audience members and critics. Apparently, technically, it is just fascinating, and with Bardo taking a massive nosedive, this may become the biggest international contender. Avatar: The Way of Water. Honestly, I need to take this one seriously. It seems that it could just be likely just because. It could just slip into one of those 9 or 10 spots because we all remember why we love Avatar. I think it is brilliant marketing that they're throwing Avatar back into theaters in 3D with their re-release. They're marketing the hell out of it, and it looks spectacularly shot and crafted, and we just have to see if audiences will buy back into the world of Pandora and be like, yeah, we remember why we all let Avatar make over $2 billion back in 2009. Because this film is just, the world is spectacular. So, can't throw it out yet. Triangle of Sadness. This used to be at my number 10. It has gone down a little bit because the conversations around it kind of died out, though in recent days, it's starting to get a wider and wider release. It still hasn't come out where I am, but more audiences are seeing it and praising it. I'm still thinking about it, but I'm just not as sure, since we have all these other films that may get a wider release and more conversations might go about it. We may just forget about Triangle of Sadness when everything ends. Empire of Light. Reviews came out from the fall festivals, and it seems pretty okay. Not Sam Mendes' greatest work. It is about movies and about the love of cinema and love. It doesn't seem to challenge a lot of audiences, but there may not be a ton of substance. And they're praising performances, especially Olivia Colman, but it doesn't seem like it may be Olivia Colman's best work. Same with the score from Reznor and Ross and Roger Deakins' cinematography. They're calling it all great work from them, but not their best. And like I said, Wakanda Forever, another sequel that the first film got nominated for Best Picture, broke ground for Marvel. Can this one break ground for them again? The film looks like it's going to break people's hearts. It's going to be very emotional, and it looks to be beautifully, beautifully shot and crafted. A lot of interesting effects and potential storylines coming at us with that one. She Said, again, it seems pretty bland technical-wise. The story seems very intriguing, but can that get it that far, it seems very hard. It seems very unlikely that they'll get a guaranteed performer in for nominations or director. Screenplay seems like their best bet to get a nomination. Doesn't seem like they'll probably get much else outside of that. Decision to Leave is kind of the next international category, international film potential in the Best Picture category. Another just beautifully shot film that got a lot of great reviews from Cannes and from fall festivals. People are just calling for everyone not to forget about this film come the end of the year. It seems like it's going to get an international nomination. Can it sneak outside of that category? It's possible. I'm not calling it out yet. And then to talk about two films that used to be in our top 10. One of them in our top 5. Let's talk about The Sun first. You know how I mentioned how a lot of people may not like The Whale because it was melodramatic? Well, apparently The Sun is very much that. And audiences are not jiving with this film at all. Which makes me extremely sad because The Sun, I love that play. I love Hugh Jackman. It is one of my most anticipated films of the year. I'm still holding out some hope for it because there are some people sticking out for this film in certain ways. Even if they didn't really like it as a whole, they're still praising Hugh Jackman and some other supporting performances. But a lot of people have just been discussing this in not a positive light enough that is really just like killing it on arrival, honestly. And then with Bardo, wow. Some of the craziest reviews. It was kind of like the first film to like kickstart this fall festival madness that has been going on. It got slaughtered in reviews. People calling it very pretentious and self-indulgent. Inarritu trying to make 8.5 in his own way. And people were just calling it way too long. Apparently there is a cut that the Netflix, because this film's coming out on Netflix, apparently Netflix cut out a lot. They shortened the runtime a little bit and cut some stuff out. We'll see if that cut helps it out at all. As similar to The Sun, there's so much discourse already on the films that I just really can't consider them right now for many awards. Now hopping on to the Best Director race. Like I mentioned before, I threw Babylon down a little down as other films have kind of taken over the conversations, and that is reflected in my directing predictions right now. Right now I got Steven Spielberg right there. It's been a while since Spielberg has won. His last Oscar win was in 1999 for Saving Private Ryan, and I think we can pick out a lot of our favorite Steven Spielberg films from the last 23 years. So it's weird to say, but a long time coming for Steven Spielberg, especially with this being a very personal film. Right behind him, I got Sarah Polley. I'm throwing up 3 spots. The color grading issue with the film is probably the biggest negative point on this film right now, but if there's some way that they can re-edit that and change that, or people can get over it, maybe, I don't know, maybe that can help her bounce up there. And hey, there is a precedent. The last 2 Best Director winners, both women. It would be awesome to see 3 in a row. How cool would that be? And as I mentioned, Damien Chazelle, they're doing some crazy stuff in that film. Just a massive production. Though we do have to think about last year when Denis Villeneuve didn't get a nomination for Dune. We gotta watch out, maybe. I don't know. Daniels is still there. I just don't really see any reason why I wouldn't put them there. They are a little lower than I did have them previously because I think there is a world where they might not get it because of certain other directors that are sneaking in there. Directors like Todd Field for Tar, we talked about, and Martin McDonagh could get another director nomination here. He's probably already going to get nominated for writing, so they love their writer-directors. Other people, we got to continue to think about James Cameron and Ruben Östlund. Park Chan-wook is, I don't think, totally out of the question if Decision to Leave can really get in people's brains. I had to throw Joseph Kosinski for Top Gun Maverick. As a lot of films have dropped, Top Gun Maverick has stayed there strong, and so there may be chances for that to come in. I am pretty confident on my top 6 or 7 there, though. I think the 5 will be made out of some combination of those 7. Best Actress, I alluded to it before, but we got a new front runner, and it surely is Cate Blanchett. Literally, every tweet about Tar goes on about how is Cate Blanchett not going to win. You're going to see this film and go, there is no way she does not win for this. Literally every tweet I've seen. There is not one tweet that I've seen that talks about, she was okay. No, everybody is raving about Cate Blanchett right now. I'm very excited to see the film. And really the only competition is just the narrative that Michelle Yeoh has going for her. Obviously, it's an amazing performance as well. I'm not going to... That statement is... I don't mean to detract from her performance, but it really is such a narrative, whereas Cate Blanchett, this would be her 3rd win. This would be Michelle Yeoh's 1st nomination. On Everything Everywhere All at Once's best day, I think Michelle Yeoh might sneak in there. I think Cate Blanchett will probably take a lot of bigger awards. Michelle Yeoh might sneak in a couple critics categories. Margot Robbie. There's an interesting conversation here because the person I've got right below Margot Robbie is Michelle Williams. Yes, and you might be like, wait a second. Michelle Williams was in supporting. She was going to win supporting last month. Well, here's the thing. The studio came out and announced that they were going to campaign Michelle Williams in the lead, which blew everyone's mind because she had the supporting actress category secured as a win. It was the biggest lock already. It's been the biggest lock since the beginning of the year. And now she's campaigning in lead in a very, very competitive category where she might not even get nominated. So it's an interesting conversation that's making all these awards pundits and predictors like us very, very confused and stressed out because, yeah, it's one thing to say that you're campaigning someone in this, but that doesn't mean that they have to nominate him there. Think about Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah. They nominated both Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield, both in supporting actor, when Lakeith wasn't even on the radar at all. No precursors whatsoever. We thought he was a lead. He is the lead of the movie. And they threw him in the supporting actor. So there is a chance that Michelle Williams might just get nominated in supporting actress. However, we'll have to see what other awards bodies do. If they nominate her and set the precedent of, yeah, you said you're going to do lead, we're going to nominate you in lead. That's what's going to happen. And there's a chance that she might not make it. So there are some conversations that Margot Robbie might just be campaigned in the supporting, but she seems like a big part of Babylon. So that would be a very, very odd category fraud. It might be one of the best paths for Margot Robbie to possibly get a win, but I don't really see that as a super likely outcome. So right now I've got Margot and Michelle both in right now. However, that 5th spot could really be filled by these 3 actresses. I can make a case for every single one of them that are very, very strong. Right now I'm leaning more Viola Davis. As I mentioned, The Woman King, making decent money. A lot of people went to see it. The controversies around the film turned out to be not super duper big. Not as big as a lot of us thought they were going to be. And she delivers quite a powerhouse of a performance. There's something fascinating with Viola Davis where you just always want so much more. Just like, oh my goodness. Everything she does is just so full of gravitas and power. And then right below her is Danielle Deadwyler for Till, whose film is also trying to overcome controversy. And I'm a little less sure that the film will overcome that controversy, though a lot of people were able to go see this, very early screenings, and they're saying it's not as bad as we thought it was. It actually focuses a lot more on the aftermath of the event rather than focusing on the brutality of the violence, and that Danielle Deadwyler, we just cannot underestimate her, and that you would be a fool if you didn't nominate her or predict her to be nominated. I've got her at 6, though, because Viola Davis has proven herself. I need to go see Till, and then if Till and Danielle Deadwyler can prove it, I may consider moving her up. And one of the biggest shockers of this month, at least for me, is that I've got Olivia Colman at 7, which I never thought would be a thing. I think I had her at number 4 back in August. But she was able to get in for The Lost Daughter. She got in for The Father. She won for The Favorite. She's setting this Meryl Streep precedent that anytime that Olivia Colman's in a film, we really have to consider her getting nominated. I mentioned it in last video, in the August video. However, something I didn't consider is that Meryl Streep doesn't get nominated for every single performance. There are times that she misses out. So maybe this is one of those years. And we do have to consider Olivia Colman is still brand spanking new to the Academy voters. 2018 was The Favorite, and that was like the first movie that got her on the scene with Academy voters. And that was 5 years ago. She's very, very new, just an infant in the Academy's eyes. And then for actor, Brendan Fraser, congrats on your Oscar win, because Hugh Jackman has gone down in my rankings a little bit because of The Sun's negative reception. Sorry, Hugh. Gonna have to just ride off on that. The millions and millions of dollars that new Wolverine Deadpool movie is gonna make you. Boo-hoo. Think about maybe doing another Broadway show or something. Though I will say, Colin Farrell does pose a somewhat of a threat, I think. I think there is a world where Colin Farrell might sneak and steal a couple of awards here and there. I think it's very likely. I think Colin Farrell's almost guaranteed that comedy actor Golden Globe. And hey, Fraser's got a storyline, but Colin's got a storyline for him as well. No nominations yet in his career. Has had an amazing career, and this year alone, wide release of After Yang. He had The Batman, 13 Lives, as well as Banshees of Inisherin. He's had a big year, and I just love Colin Farrell. He's just fantastic, and I am personally rooting for him to get that nomination, and I wouldn't be mad if he stole a couple of awards here and there from Brendan if they shared the load a little bit. I mentioned before, Austin Butler seemingly is locked in now with the ever-shifting actor category here. I think Hugh is still going to overcome the Sun troubles and get in. I think that might be one of the only nominations that it may get. And I had to throw out Daniel Jimenez Cacho for Bardo because of the troubles of that film. And so instead, in his place, I've got another Latino actor, Diego Calva, who I don't know why I didn't have him on my list last video, for Babylon. Even though Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt seem to be the big stars of Babylon, the more recognizable names, but from the script that people have read, Diego Calva is the lead of Babylon. So we're going to see a lot of him. And from the brief moments we got of Diego Calva in the trailer, he looks to be having some fun. And I think there will be some substance to get out of that character. I'm excited to see what they do with it. Of course, he's a new actor, so that is a little harder for the Oscars to buy in on. Though, we've seen it before with like Roma and Olivia Colman, we talked about before, with The Favorite, her first nomination. They're not afraid to do it. Bill Nighy has just been steadfast in that number 6 spot for a lot of people, like this whole year. We're just not sure if that's actually going to be a thing, because people are saying he's wonderful, he's great, very deserving, but there's nothing else going for that film except for him. The craziest thing out of all this, Tom Cruise, we have to actually consider this, that this might happen. Tom Cruise getting nominated for Top Gun. Kind of wild, but what else are we going to put in? Adam Driver The film's not... White Noise isn't getting universal praise. Chevalier, we don't really know if it's coming out this year or not. So hey, Tom Cruise, don't count that out. Supporting actress, we kind of talked about how the absence of Michelle Williams has really just shook up the entire race of the Oscars, honestly, and lends way for Women Talking. I mentioned it that the performances were getting a lot of praise in Women Talking. We knew that Jessie Buckley was probably going to eat. It's going to be a wonderful time, and coming straight off of a surprise nomination in Lost Daughter last year, we know that the Academy has got their eyes on Jessie Buckley. She's my number 2 because Claire Foy is getting the most praise out of all the women in Women Talking. People are talking about Jessie Buckley as well. Rooney Mara, who may go lead. Several other performances in it are wonderful, but Claire Foy seems to be the biggest contender here, and so I've got her winning right now with Jessie Buckley just right behind. And another new inclusion here, Carrie Condon for Banshees. According to a lot of people, even people who are praising Colin Farrell, praising Brendan Gleeson, praising Martin McDonagh for his writing and vision, the most universal praise out of all these reviews I'm reading for Banshees is Carrie Condon. Reportedly just hilarious and commands the screen every time she's on talking and chatting it up. Stephanie Hsu is still there. I think it's more likely now that Michelle Williams has kind of exited the picture here. And I changed stuff around here. I moved down Sadie Sink and I moved up Hong Chau. This is a similar move I've seen from a lot of my fellow Oscar predictors and awards pundits. They're both very, very good, but I think more people may relate to Hong Chau's performance because Sadie Sink is doing an angry teenager kind of performance, which may not relate completely with awards voters. There are some complaints that she's too angry and just not likable enough, which I think is kind of the point of the character, but whatever. I think Hong Chau might have that little bit of edge there. Though, watch out for Janelle Monáe in Glass Onion. She seems to be the standout performer besides Daniel Craig. Though, I do have to compare this to, well, who is a standout in Knives Out? The first one, that was Ana de Armas, and yeah, that happened at the Globes, but that did not end up happening at the Oscars. So maybe this will change that precedent. This is a whole new film, but I can't guarantee it right now. That's why I've got it at 6. And we talked about the Women King. Thuso Mbedu, amazing. What a wonderful talent. If you haven't seen Underground Railroad, she is amazing in that. I can't wait to see what she does. She's very, very early into her career. She's fantastic in The Woman King. And then again, I've got Michelle Williams there just in case, because who knows? And supporting actor, Ke Huy Quan, he's still sticking up there because this is another kind of a shit show category that a lot of things could happen, and he is just one constant that has stayed there and has not moved. I'm still seeing GIFs and memes of the I'd love to do laundry with you in another lifetime and such, and tons of quotes and just love for Ke Huy Quan. Woman Talking again. Ben Whishaw, which I am so happy that he's getting a lot of praise for this because I love Ben Whishaw so much. He is such a cutie, and he is just an electric performer. I've fallen in love with his acting. Being the lone male in Woman Talking that has somewhat of a bigger role, we watch the film through his perspective. He's kind of our narrator, our guide through this story. So there's a lot for him to do in this film. Brendan Gleeson, I mentioned it before. It's just part of the Banshees package, and another performer that is long overdue for a nomination. Brad Pitt, still there as well. There is some controversy and some stuff that's popping up for Brad Pitt lately. If that really kicks off, there's a big chance that he will fall out of the conversation, as things are in Hollywood and in the world right now. But also, as things are in the world in Hollywood right now, there is a likely chance that he will still get nominated nonetheless. Ah, what a wonderful world we live in, don't we? And then, something I did not expect. Judd Hirsch, who has one scene in The Fabelmans, but at its premiere in the fall festivals, had a mid-movie applause break for his one-scene performance. I think this is more likely than Paul Dano, who is playing a rather understated and subtle father who doesn't do a lot of yelling or screaming, whereas Judd Hirsch has a very powerful and important moment in the movie where he just eats up the scenery in that one scene. So I've got him there. It happened. It's happened. Judi Dench got in last year over Katrina Balfe. Seeing comparisons here. Other people to still consider Michael Ward for Empire of Light, possibly, though that is slowly down and might not get any nominations. Brian Tyree Henry is getting a lot of praise for Causeway with Jennifer Lawrence, and I can't wait for the day that he gets his first Oscar nomination, because it's going to happen sooner or later. Though A24 has already got a lot of films on their hand juggling this year that are considered big awards contenders. So Causeway may fall to the wayside as they focus on those other films. Screenplay categories. Let's start with adapted. I goofed, everyone. But I wasn't the only one who goofed. I told you all that Banshees of Inisherin was an adapted screenplay because Martin McDonagh had an unproduced play called The Banshees of Inisherin, and that would fall under that. However, apparently, this play, unproduced play, The Banshees of Inisherin, is just in its namesake. It has nothing to do with the film. It just happens to have the same name, and Martin McDonagh took that name and applied it to this movie and this script. So Banshees is under original. I apologize. Forgive me. Now, as I mentioned, The Sun is falling out. I've got it like at number 10 right now. That has lent way for Women Talking. It seems very secure in that win. This also seemingly has confirmed that The Whale will get in no matter what. She said, I've still kind of got that in that area there. Knives Out, Glass Onion seems even more likely. And now, out of nowhere, Top Gun Maverick seems to be one of the only other real contenders. I don't think White Noise is going to get in. It's a little too weird. All Quiet on the Western Front, it seems to be a little more spectacle over story. Maybe I'm wrong. Avatar? Black Panther? Could it still be The Sun? I don't know. I think Top Gun just might go in there because it's top 6, top 7 in Best Picture. And all those other films may not even get in. Original screenplay, I still got Everything Everywhere. It's the it's the original screenplay of the decade. Of the past few decades, maybe. The Fabelmans still does pose a threat there. Not gonna lie, but Everything Everywhere is just the more fun pick. Here's my take. If The Fabelmans wins original screenplay, it's probably gonna win Best Picture. If Everything Everywhere all at once wins original screenplay, it could win Best Picture, but that could also mean that Women Talking wins. I just don't see a path where if The Fabelmans wins screenplay and doesn't win picture. The Banshees has gone from I thought it was an adapted to now original. Babylon still got in there, and then Tar. I got that over Triangle of Sadness because not as many people are talking about Triangle of Sadness right now. And I just wanted to throw it out here. Bros, I'd love to see this happen. Do I think it's likely? Maybe not. Is this a hopeful little thing? Am I trying to manifest this? Maybe. But also, I just wanted an excuse to talk about Bros, because all y'all straight people, you haven't gone to see this movie. What the heck? Come on. It doesn't deserve to be a box office bomb, because Bros is an amazing film. Hilarious and full of wonderful queer representation. Go see Bros. Come on. If y'all seeing Amsterdam over Bros, you got a problem. And I'll leave it at that. You can do your research. Jeez. Cinematography. Babylon, I kind of got it up there at number 1, number 2 for a lot of technical categories because just look at the trailer. It's Linus Sandgren, Damien Chazelle's mainstay. It looks fantastic. The only reason I don't have Fabelmans over it is because Janusz Kaminski, yeah, we know what a Spielberg movie looks like. And that is in great part attributed to the brilliance of Janusz Kaminski. But it doesn't look like he's doing anything out of the ordinary or crazy in this film compared to his previous work. He's just consistently good in this, it seems, and Babylon just looks insane. I mentioned before, Top Gun, it's sneaking into other technical categories here. I've got it at 3 now. Empire of Light has gone down because of the conversations around that film have just kind of died out lately. All Quiet on the Western Front. This really could happen. Though Avatar The Way of Water, just from the way that they have developed new technology to build these underwater motion capture rigs and all this stuff, and it's extraordinary. And why wouldn't you want to award some innovations, these massive innovations in technology and cinematography? So it's a very close number 6 there. And I still got Bardo there because it seems from the trailers and conversations that the cinematography is just like crazy and like spectacular regardless of the messy story. So production design is actually turning out to be a category that I'm pretty excited for, just from the representation that could likely happen. Of course, we got Babylon, our mainstay there, and Fabelmans will probably get in as well. But it is very likely that we'll see Avatar, Black Panther, and The Woman King all get in, which is like super dope. 3 just like blockbuster films that do have a lot of substance to them. I don't want to like minimize those films to just being blockbuster films. Of course, there are reasons that they'll get nominated or at least in the conversation about it, because they seem to be wonderfully crafted films all around. Similar to the cinematography in Avatar, just creating these extravagant worlds with this new technology to developing is just amazing. And you just look at that Black Panther trailer. Wow, it looks gorgeous. And with exploring now the underwater world with Namor, that's going to get really, really cool and really awesome. I mean, we're doing it with Avatar as well. So maybe there may be conversations that we got like 2 underwater movies, but they both seem to be doing very interesting things in their own rights. And The Woman King, just another fabulously designed film. Getting that perspective of the historical epic, I think, could sneak it in. Also look out for All Quiet on the Western Front again. I've got All Quiet on a lot of different categories around the 5 or 6, 7 range. Because on its best day, it could get like 10 nominations. On, maybe its worst day, it could get maybe only like 2 or 3. I mentioned before, Glass Onion seems to have really good production design, and a lot of people are talking about that, how that could be a possibility. So maybe look out for that. But in the end as well, Everything Everywhere, I think, would be a wonderful nomination. The way that they transformed that one office building into so many different like set pieces. Because you look at it, you realize like that film really only has the location of the laundromat and the office building, just different floors of the office building for the majority of the film. Obviously, they're transported to different places and such like that, but it's crazy how they like transformed and made it fresh and new. And you don't really realize that you've been in those 2 locations for the majority of the film until it's after. I think that would be a cool nomination. That's one of my ones that I'm rooting for. Makeup and hair, The Whale is number 1 still, with Brendan Fraser seemingly securing his Oscar. It seems that the makeup nominations is going to go along with it and the win. We saw that with Tammy Faye last year with Jessica Chastain. The moment that she became the front runner, Tammy Faye immediately was the front runner for makeup and hair, and they both inevitably won. The Batman is still going to be up there for Colin Farrell's transformation. Also, just with like the eye makeup with Batman and all the other injuries and such. Like, Catwoman's got some great makeup as well. It's not just the Penguin, but that's the biggest mainstay there. Elvis, they do the fat Elvis. And not only the fat Elvis at the end of the movie, they have Tom Hanks, as well as just the younger transformation of Elvis with the hair as well. I think in this category, we always focus on the makeup. The hair isn't always like the main conversation about it, but the hair is really well done. I think everything production-wise in Elvis is just fantastic, but the makeup and hair is really good. Babylon, you got to look out for that as well. We got the Hollywood a glamour, and Tobey Maguire's got some weird pale face stuff going on. We got a lot of drug faces, you know, people coked up on stuff. So you got the baggy eyes and the sweat and all that. It's going to be insane. And then Black Panther got a makeup nomination last time with the first film. I can see it getting here again. The Woman King does pose a threat. I think Wakanda Forever might be a little more flashy with the makeup and hair. As opposed to the Woman King. Both are really good in their own respects. And I just got to shout out X. Like, that really should be, like, in the conversation of winning, because the way that they transform Mia Goth's character into Pearl is amazing, and how a lot of people did not know that she played dual roles in that film until after the film came out and saw the behind the scenes is amazing. And is fully attributed to that amazing makeup work there. It honestly should be winning. But we know the genre bias in the Oscars. We respect it. Actually, I don't respect it, but I recognize it. Costume design, Babylon with the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. You just look at those massive orgy parties that are going on. You look at all those costumes, you're like, yeah, yeah, it's probably gonna get nominated, might win. But Elvis as well. Like, the way they recreated all these iconic costumes is pretty fabulous. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, it won costume design the last time. It's the same costume designer as the first one. There is a chance that, you know, there could be like, oh, we already rewarded you for this, but the costumes look fabulous. Just from like the white costumes in the trailer that seemingly looks like to be Chadwick Boseman's character, T'Challa's funeral maybe. Those costumes look fabulous. The Woman King as well. I'm worried that there's going to be a lot of conversations about comparing Woman King and Black Panther Forever in a lot of these categories, and that may bump out one or the other. I think there is room for both because both are very different. One's a fantasy world. One's a fake country with futuristic armors and costumes and mythical people. The Woman King is based off a true story in colonial Africa. Are you just comparing them because they both are from Africa and have colored people in the films and they're fighting? Like, that's a little bit of a shallow comparison, but I do see it happening, and there is room for both. Just gotta say that. There's room for both. And then the Fabelmans, just cause it's the Fabelmans. Again, we got to watch out for Chevalier if it comes out. There hasn't been a confirmation yet. If it does come out, watch out for that to be like a Cyrano type nomination. Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I see a lot of people talking about this one. I haven't seen it yet myself. Of course, it doesn't have a lot of other conversations in any other categories, so that would hurt it. But it does happen. Costume and makeup are one of those categories that you do see outside of Best Picture contenders getting these nominations to fill up the 5. Editing, it's interesting because we've learned in the past few years that sound and editing are very, very much linked. We see Sound of Metal, who becomes the frontrunner in sound, it ends up winning editing. Where we all know who the sound frontrunner is this year, Top Gun Maverick. So why don't I have it at number 1 is because Everything Ever All at Once uses editing to a fashion that I've never seen before in a film. A lot of people have never seen before. It is fascinating and groundbreaking. And I think if it wins editing, which I've got it winning there, it's really close to winning Best Picture. Editing in order of importance, honestly, it goes from Best Picture. You got to get a screenplay win, a director win would be nice, and then editing. Those are some big key players in the Best Picture win. And whereas Women Talking maybe isn't as high, this could be a category where we really see how things shake up. Because if The Fabelmans misses in editing, that's a big deal. If Women Talking ends up going higher, that's a big deal. But if Everything Everywhere All at Once stays there and ends up beating Top Gun Maverick, that's huge. And that could bode very well for an Everything Everywhere All at Once Best Picture win. Sound, Top Gun. All Quiet, it's a war movie. The Batman, people may forget about that film. It came out in March, for heaven's sake. Babylon, just for all the crazy sounds happening in that film. They got elephants. They got lust. They got drugs. They got all of it. They got jazz. Just for the jazz alone. And I still got Nope. I'm holding out for a Nope nomination somewhere. If it ain't cinematography, if it ain't screenplay, ain't director, gotta see it in sound. Because the sound design of the proverbial antagonistic being of Nope, the sound design is fantastic with that certain entity. And I won't go into further details on it because if you haven't seen it, I want you to go see it. But if you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If Nope doesn't get in, I'm a little hopeful with that. Avatar, Elvis will probably sneak in there, or in Everything Everywhere. VFX is getting handed right over to Avatar. I mentioned it with the cinematography and production design. It is just groundbreaking. So they're creating new visual effects. Like, wow. Like, forget about give it a lifetime achievement. The Batman, again, just has that worry of, like, is it too far removed? Came out all the way back in March. But when it comes to, like, blockbusters that normally get into this category, I'm not super on board with a lot of the Marvel contenders besides Black Panther. I don't see Doctor Strange, and no way that Thor Love and Thunder gets in. So I think that lends way for Batman to be like Batman and Wakanda Forever to be the comic book movie representation there and be done with that. Everything Everywhere, I think, has a great chance to get in. If not, it might just end up being a Top Gun or maybe another Marvel in there. I don't know. But I will say, Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro's stop-motion animated film. Yes, stop-motion films have been nominated in visual effects before. Pinocchio seems to be the frontrunner for animated picture, so there's a chance for it to get into costumes or production design and visual effects on its best day. I think visual effects is the most likely outside of animated picture. Let's talk about the score briefly. Babylon is still up there. Justin Hurwitz is just like a legend. And just from the best scoring of a trailer, outside of like adding like a popular song into it, I think Babylon has some great original music within the trailer. The way it's just, the music seems to be ingrained in Damien Chazelle movies is thanks in great part to the brilliance of Justin Hurwitz. Woman Talking is Hildur Guðnadóttir, who won for Joker. And apparently the score is fantastic. I cannot wait to hear that. It's probably one of my most anticipated scores of the year. The Fabelmans is John Williams. John Williams gets nominated for everything. The most nominated individual in Oscar history. This seems to be probably one of his last films. We just have to recognize that John Williams is getting very, very old, and these are one of the last chances to nominate John Williams. And the Oscars just go crazy for a John Williams score. Even they nominated John Williams for Rise of Skywalker, for heaven's sake. Top Gun Maverick, the collab between Lady Gaga and Hans Zimmer and a couple other amazing artists. I mean, it's the collab of the year, man. that score is fantastic. They do utilize the nostalgia of the, but some great original score in there that, you feel that brilliance of Hans Zimmer and Lady Gaga there. It was a great collaboration. And then the Batman, I mean, I think that score is still stuck in our heads. It's still stuck in our heads. A wonderful score. If not Batman, maybe Banshees or Empire of Light. Pinocchio could be a contender in there as well. Tar is done by Hildur Guðnadóttir as well. We don't often see double nominations, but it almost happened last year with Johnny Greenwood. So it could happen with Hildur. The Academy, like Hildur, she won for Joker, so could be possible. Animated feature, I talked about it. Pinocchio is number one right now. Turning Red, Strange World, those are all mainstays from last month. I am moving up My Father's Dragon. I forgot to mention it last video, but this is coming to Netflix. Jacob Tremblay, Gaten Matarazzo. It's got a good cast, and it's done by the same studio that it did Wolfwalkers, I believe, or it's in the same animation style. This has something to do with Wolfwalkers. And then Wendell and Wild is still up there, even though it didn't get a ton of amazing praise. It is the same filmmaker as Coraline, though. It seems to be a big year for stop motion. If not that, think about The Bad Guys. Oscars, please think about The Bad Guys. I love The Bad Guys. That film was not on my radar at all earlier in the year, but I revisited it. I visited it a few months ago, and goodness gracious, fantastic film. I love it so much. It's such a sweet film, such a simple film, but also deep in some themings and beautifully animated. It takes after Into the Spider-Verse a little bit. And this is just an update here that just happened yesterday. I just read an article that Apollo 10.5: A Space Age Childhood is not going to be deemed eligible for the animated feature, which is a whole conversation in itself that really just pisses me off because, man, it's a wonderful film, and if it was my choice, it would be number 2 or number 3 for the year, just because of the conversation between it being a rotoscoped film and over certain live action, whatever it be. You can read the art, you can find the article yourself, but that's just a little update on there. It's probably not going to be considered eligible. And there are also some conversations about Marcel the Shell with the Shoes On that may not be deemed eligible either. So kind of a light year when it comes to the animated films. So we'll see what happens. International feature. Bardo has gone down now since the conversations around that film. That's why I've got All Quiet on the Western Front, number 1 now, Decision to Leave right after that. And Close. Seems like it's probably going to get in, which is crazy because that's yet another A24 film that is in the Oscar conversation, which is wild. It's crazy to see so many A24 films in the conversation. I'm just worried that A24 is going to drop the ball, as they have done in the past. Think about The Green Knight, First Cow, stuff like that really just kind of missed out because they just juggled it wrong. So I hope that they don't. We'll have to see, though. And then outside of those films I mentioned, I don't really know a ton about these international categories quite yet, and a lot about these films. So I'm kind of picking and choosing from other pundits I've seen. Holy Spider from Denmark premiered at Cannes, I believe. It got a lot of good reception. And then Argentina 1985 from Argentina is coming to Amazon soon. So a lot of people may stumble upon that film and watch that. And hey, maybe Bardo ends up sneaking in there somehow still. So we'll have to see. Now onto some categories that I did not talk about in the last video, now that I've kind of had a time to do some research and think about different ideas for this. So we're going to talk about song. Number 1, I've got Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick. This is the Lady Gaga song. There's a chance that she'll get double nominated this year, which is awesome. making up for her missing House of Gucci last year. She's going to come swinging back with Top Gun Maverick. I assume there's going to be a song from Black Panther Wakanda Forever. The soundtrack with the first film was amazing. Kendrick Lamar putting in some amazing work there. I assume there will be a All the Stars level song in this film that could be a big contender. New Body Roomba from White Noise is a song from LCD Sound System that is a big hit. Apparently has a really fun moment in the film that a lot of people are talking about, even if they don't like the film as much and they found it a little weird, that I think could get in a big return for LCD Sound System. I got Carolina in here. Taylor Swift. I'm not going to be talking about the short categories. Those are categories I don't know enough about still. I probably won't know about them until those precursor awards come out. But Taylor Swift is in some conversations for short film with her All Too Well short film. So she may be already in the conversation, and this might throw it in for Carolina Where the Crawdads Sing. It's a great song. And then Nobody Like You. The Oscars really like to lean on credit songs, but I love when the songs are utilized in the film. And Nobody Like You is the boy band song that's sung in it. It's a little fun, a little silly, which the Oscars sometimes don't go for, but I think that could be could be possible. Not To is one that everyone talks about with RRR, which, if you didn't hear the news, did not get submitted for international feature, so it will not be eligible there. I know, so mad. But a lot of people are talking about what's one way to get people to watch the Oscars? Get the two guys from RRR to sing Not To at the ceremony. They'll just bring the house down. I agree, that'll be awesome. But also look out for Love Is Not Love from Bros. This is it's a parody song. It's silly. It's from a comedy, so it has that going against it. But Billy Eichner sings it in the movie, and it is a beautiful, beautiful moment. I think that would be awesome. And one last one I just got to mention. Applause from Tell It Like a Woman. I have no idea what Tell It Like a Woman is about. I didn't even know it was a movie until I found out that Diane Warren is writing and singing a song for this, and we all know the power of Diane Warren. If you watched my past videos, you know the power of Diane Warren. If you follow awards, races, and punditry, you know the power of Diane Warren. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. See how many times Diane Warren has been nominated for original song. Just look. And then look how many times she's won. It's very fascinating. So you can't count it out. You can't count it out. The Academy loves Diane Warren. And then finally, we're going to talk about documentary feature, because I was able to see some documentaries, and critics were able to see some as well. Right now, I got Moon Age Daydream at #1. Yes, one of the big reasons is because I just saw it, and it's one of the only ones on this list that I have seen. But it is beautiful and ethereal, and it is the most David Bowie thing I have seen. It was an immersive experience in IMAX. The marketing has been wonderful for it. Neon has been really pushing this, and I think that'll get it through. Fire of Love is another Neon project that got a lot of wonderful reception. Was it Sundance or I forget? At some festival, it got a big reception, and people are like, this is the front runner. This is like the first big front runner of the year, and it's continued to be that. Senior was just a recently announced project that Robert Downey Jr. Did a documentary about his father, Robert Downey Sr., who was a fascinating man, and I'm very excited to watch that, and just from the namesakes of that film, that could get in. All the Beauty and the Bloodshed and Descendant, I don't know a ton about. Again, these are films that I kind of pulled from other lists and websites that I found. I know Descendant is going to Netflix, and Netflix usually has some sort of a player in the documentary category every year. And those are my October predictions. Next time I do a video, I will have seen several of these films, and I'll be able to give you updates on what I think about it, because a lot of this is just opinions from critics and festivals and some precursor awards and scattered opinions across the internet that we're all just compiling together, but we won't really know until wide audiences get these films. The race is far from over yet. That is for damn sure. But things are starting to shake up in a very interesting way. Thank you for watching. Again, all my social medias, Letterboxd, Twitter, and all the such are linked down below. Go check those out. I will catch you maybe in about a month to see where we're at with these Oscar predictions. Bye.